Okay, today I'd like to talk about the issue of the canon of the New Testament, why the books of the New Testament were accepted into the canon of the Bible by the church, and how that was done and motivations for it. And refuting a common myth that I hear is that Constantine was the one who set that all up so that he could have a book that would solidify his power. I hear this from many Muslims and liberals that I've talked to, and just some common people on the street that I've tried to talk to Christ about, friends. And thank you very much, Dan Brown, for having that funny little historical revisionism myth perpetrated. This is absolutely false. Constantine converted in about 312, and he dies around 337. The issue of the canon was not decided in the church until 397 at the Council of Carthage. So what does Constantine have to do with that? He's dead. Okay? But the general issue of the New Testament and the books being accepted, the real controversy that decided the main bulk of the New Testament books and which would be accepted was the controversy with Marcion in the middle of the 2nd century. That's what really was the catalyst to spur on the church to accept certain books and reject others. The main bulk of them. There was still questionable books even after books after Marcion, but the general, I think 90% of the New Testament books were pretty much set after Marcion. So what happened is the New Testament is pretty much finished by 100 AD. The last gospel, probably John, Revelation, written in the 90s somewhere. Paul's writing his letters in the 50s. Mark probably in around 70. Luke and Matthew in the 80s. John in the 90s. And his Revelation and 1st and 2nd John in the 90s probably. 1 Peter probably in the 60s, and James probably in the 60s. So pretty much that's set. Those books are written. Now they're not collected yet. Obviously they're not collected into one New Testament book or canon. But what you had going on in the 2nd century was a group called the Gnostics. And the first Gnostic gospel that we know of written, that's the earliest, is the Gospel of Thomas, probably written somewhere in the early 2nd century. And here Jesus is not someone who died and rose again and performed miracles and was the Messiah in a Jewish sense. He becomes a Platonic philosopher, kind of like Buddha. This is the the Greek version of Jesus that is completely Greek, Platonic. Now other early church apologists will translate the gospel into Greek, like the Gospel of John chapter 1 is very Greek. At least the fruit of it can be Greek, although I think the roots of it are in the Jewish Hebrew mindset. But the Gnostics pretty much completely Greek Hellenized Jesus. They made him so he wasn't anymore a Messiah who was acting in history. He was a philosopher that told us ideas. Remember Plato's analogy of the cave? It's the ideas that matter. That's what really matters. The physical world, we don't like that. Physical world is just the shadows and all this. So the first Gnostic gospel was written in the early 2nd century. Now there was a second Jewish war with the Romans in 130, the Bar Kokhba rebellion, and the Jews after that, the Jews of course get beat, they lose, and they're not popular in the empire at all. Nobody likes them, and they're just not popular. So Marcion comes along into the church in Rome and says, he gives a big donation. Everybody likes him at first, but he says, we're going to get rid of anything Jewish or Hebrew from the Bible. We're going to get rid of the Old Testament. It's gone. The God of the Old Testament actually is an evil God who created the physical universe, so he's gone. And we're going to get rid of Matthew. He's too Jewish. Mark, too Jewish. John, too Jewish. The rest of the other books, too Jewish, except for Paul's letters. And we're going to take Luke's gospel and cut it up. And it's kind of a mangled form of Luke. Like, he doesn't like the birth narrative because that's Jesus being born in flesh. Don't like that. Flesh, wrong, bad. Spirit, good. So Jesus is basically Hellenized in that thing. And so that's his canon, is a mangled Gospel of Luke and Paul's letters. Now, the church in Rome rejects this and says, no, we're going to keep the Old Testament, and we're going to keep Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul's letters. And then we have what is called the Moratorian Canon. It's the first, it's a canon written about which books were accepted. And then there were disputed books. Irenaeus even talks about this in the end of the 2nd century. So that's the real dispute of when the canon was decided, was during the Marcion dispute, not during Constantine. So when people say Constantine did it, that's not true. Now there was, even after the Marcion dispute, there was some disputes about other books, like Hebrews. We don't know who wrote it. James, there was a little bit of, it was more accepted. That book is more accepted. 2nd and 3rd John, there's little letters. Who cares? Revelation is weird. So there's some disputes, and some wanted to keep the Shepherd of Hermas, some wanted to keep the Revelation of Peter, and some wanted to keep some other books that are in there, but little books. But generally, the 90% of the New Testament canon is decided by the end of the 2nd century. All right, thanks for watching.